Looking back to 2022, we spoke about this wonderful new endeavor that Limitless Festival were taking in transitioning to Staffordshire Showground and taking a massive step of faith, Tim. Would you just help us to understand how it went, give us some stats, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. It's hard to communicate with words just how astonishing that week together was. If you weren't able to come, I wish you could have been there just to taste something of what the Lord did in young people's lives. 4,063 of us gathered together on site in Staffordshire Showground. And I've been doing this for a little while now, and I have never in my life seen young people with an appetite to worship like I saw it that week.
Wow.
You could see, you can imagine it was, this massive room. And I could see from where I was able to stand that, into the very back corners, young people just abandoned in worshiping Jesus. There was baptism of the Spirit. There was an outpouring of the gift of tongues, actually, not by our design, but by the Holy Spirit's design. One young person came up to me and she said, Tim, last night I spoke in tongues for the first time. Wow. I said, that's great. She goes, and now I've just prayed for someone and they spoke in tongues for the first time. I was thinking, I'm definitely going to get a pay rise. This is amazing.
Wow. The budget's a bit tight, isn't
yeah,
it?
a bit tight. That's why we're taking the offering. No, it's not. It's a joke. It's a joke. But guys, best of all, 480 people responded to the gospel.
Wow.
And honestly, if you could have seen it, and we were really clear about the cost of following Jesus. We were clear that this was an invitation to follow Jesus for the first time over the course of the week. But the aisles were full of young people just coming forward to give their lives to God. It was astonishing.
Hey, that's super exciting, isn't it? Tim, we know you love to tell stories. So just tell us one or two stories of young people and their testimony, what they've shared with you would be great.
I'd love to share with you some. I know you guys have been so faithful in praying and sending our young people along. And we received literally hundreds of testimonies from young people. Here are a few of them. Because of Limitless Festival, I feel closer to God than I ever have. I realized that no matter how lonely I feel, I have a family around me that I never quite realized. After struggling with depression for years and continually getting worse, I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in as long as I can remember. And I felt peace and joy differently to anything I've felt in years. I love this one. I gave my life to Jesus after realizing for the first time that he's already forgiven me for my sins and that he sees me and he's seen everything, but he still loves me nonetheless. Even when I turned my back on him, he never turned his back on me. And this is amazing. God has helped me this week and he's changed my life. Before I came here, I didn't even feel like there was any point in living. But now I'm a Christian and I feel happy. Two more little ones for you. I've been crippled by low self-esteem and by an eating disorder for as long as I can remember. And now it's as though I'm experiencing life through a whole new pair of eyes. I have never been so free or felt so loved. Wow, Limitless, thank you. I've never felt so full.
Brilliant. They're great stories, aren't they? Because it roots us in reality. Yeah, thank you. Many of you will be familiar with Limitless Pioneers and the vision that we have to start youth ministry in churches that don't have a youth ministry. And one example is in Blackpool, the church that Neville leads. And you were able to bring some young people from one of those brand new youth ministries to Limitless Festival. So would you just tell us how they got on?
Yeah, we worked with Limitless Pioneers and started this youth club, and the kids that have come to it, they're all from the local area. They're from really mixed up families, a lot of them, and we took 8 of them to the festival. 4 of them prayed salvation prayers, which was absolutely brilliant. There's one of them that came back and he still listens every day to the worship songs from the playlist, which is absolutely fantastic. And you can see the change in his life, which is really lovely. Another one of the lads who's not yet given his life to the Lord, I asked him about it, and he's on our tech team now at church, this lad, and he said, just being in this room with all these young people and the sense of the presence of God was so real to him. I don't understand why he's not given his life to the Lord yet, but anyway, that's what it is. And just the final thing I'd say about it is the festival has been really helped with the idea of Youth Club being a safe place and the relationships they built. And so that has really, really helped with what we're doing. And being a safe place is so important. Yeah.
Fantastic. And heading a little further north to sunny Glasgow, Fraser, tell us about the group of young people that you brought from Glasgow down to Limitless Festival.
Yeah, we were really delighted to take a coachload of young people from Glasgow and from across Scotland down to Limitless Festival. And to say that Limitless Festival had an impact on our young people would be a massive understatement. And you know, on the way down, I was chatting to the team about this moment, and I said, guys, give me some material to work with, right? So how could we say that Limitless Festival has impacted our young people? And there's all the obvious things that we can talk about young people sensing the call to ministry, some even beginning to get involved in shaping youth ministry and the ministry that they're part of and beginning to lead in that. But our youth leader said to me that on Sunday, he asked the youth group the question, describe for us a defining moment or a life-changing moment. And apparently one young person's answer was Limitless Festival. Limitless Festival changed my life, was what they said. And you know, if I can get personal for a moment, I can say that about myself too. If I'm being brutally honest, when there was a shift and transition from regional structure to a vision for Limitless Festival, I didn't get it. And to my shame, I gave Tim a really hard time about it. And I shouldn't have, because I was wrong. And I ended up at Limitless Festival this year by default. It was my first time there. And standing in that room, I suppose I was looking at it from a slightly different perspective of pastor and parent. So there was a vested interest then in the way that I was viewing what was going on. And it was so incredible to see a room of over 4,000 young people worshipping without hype. And I think it's important to call that out with some of the stuff that we've been reading and hearing about. Care was taken to ensure that there was no hype. And even in the moments where there was hype, it was stopped and focus was brought back to where it was. To see moments where for 30, 40 minutes, young people stood in silence. No music, no Holy Spirit synth pads in the background and to cultivate the atmosphere of the presence, but just in silence, young people were led into an encounter with Jesus. For 30, 40 minutes, we were pressing into Jesus. Wonderful. People being baptized in the Spirit, healed, delivered tangibly, vocally, having encounters. And those decisions, I think the intentionality, I wouldn't say that it was made hard for young people to respond to Jesus, but it was not made easy. They knew what they were signing up for, the decision that they were making. There was something so beautiful and raw. And I think when I think about it, you know, within Elim ministry, we're all familiar with the pictures of the foundation of our movement. Those scenes up and down the country of town halls filled with thousands of people. And George Jeffreys and his team presenting the gospel in an unassuming, simplistic way and inviting people to decide or to make decisions for Jesus without pizzazz and hype, because it wasn't 21st century ministry back then, that people were brought into experiences, the baptism of the Spirit, healing and deliverance and life-changing stuff. And when you look at that, you think to yourself, I wish I could have been in a moment like that. You know, at the foundation of our movement, when God was birthing something new in our nation. And then I realized I was.
That's good.
Last August in Stafford, in a room with thousands of people from all across the nation, the components and the conditions that were at the foundation of our movement were at work in that room, as in a simplistic and unassuming way, young people were invited into the life of Jesus. People were having encounters and being transformed by the very real presence of Jesus. And I couldn't help but think that Elim has come full circle again.
Nice.
And God is birthing something new. amongst our young people. He's birthing something new in our nation. And if I can say this and then I'll shut up, right? But to stand in that room with 4,000 young people, with their hands raised and tears running down their face, asking the Spirit to break out in our nation, is something I will never forget. And I don't care what people say about our young people. I don't care what people say about the church and its relevance and its future. I am confident that the church is in safe hands because God is birthing something amazing in this generation.
Thanks, Fraser. I resonate as well. I'm a parent and a pastor, and I've experienced the exact same thing. So thank you so much, guys, for sharing. Tim, we know that now that Limitless Festival is expanding, it's beyond like the beloved Elim movement. There are other denominations, other movements beyond. Would you just help us to understand like how that's connecting with a wider church?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I love most about what God is doing is that I think that in this moment, he's trusting us with something with which we can bless his church. And how many know that we don't lose out by being generous with what we've got? And so, like, for example, I was down in like a couple of months ago in a little town in Devon and speaking at a Baptist church there. And there were these two leaders who work at a Youth for Christ center, and they had rallied together 10 non-Christian young people from the outreach work that they do in that little town. And they got them along to Limitless Festival. 5 of those 10 young people gave their lives to Jesus during the week. They came back, and as a result of that, they've started a kind of like churches together monthly youth gathering in their town. But the thing that really excited me was this, that they were running a CU that they said to me was before Limitless Festival, it was on their last legs. They had 2 or 3 young people come in after school. But these 5 young people who gave their life to Jesus started inviting their friends to come along to their Christian union. And now, as a result of that, they told me they're getting now 15 or 16 young people from that school coming along to their Christian union each week. And there was a Baptist church, you know, and we got to bless them through what God was doing in the Limitless Festival. So that feels like a real privilege that God's trusting us with.
Some people might say, why is it important? Like, why is a gathering with thousands of young people important? Why would I need to send my young people? Like, what happens that's special, like in a moment like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I wonder if I could just ask for a little favor. And I don't know if it's possible just to have a few, like, raise the house lights a little bit. But could I ask, if you are someone in this room and you first gave your life to Jesus when you were 18 or younger, under the age of 18, as a child or a teenager, would you just raise your hand for me? Could you just, especially if you're up front, could you just look around the room a minute? Can you see that? That's why it's important. So, here's the bit where I get a paid cut. The International Bible Society, they say that, and I think we've just seen it in the room just now, 83% of people who are following Jesus today as adults gave their lives to Jesus as children and young people. We've just seen by that show, like, this is where it happens. This is where faith formation happens. As children and young people, we are formed into the people we become. And if we were a business or an organization, then what we would do strategically is we would put the best of our people and the best of our resources into the areas which would garner us the greatest return. And as we've just seen, the area of the most fertile soil for faith formation, it is in children and young people. We've just seen that in that show of hands.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
So this is why this stuff is important.
Yeah,
you know?
fantastic. Tim, final question. how can we as a movement get behind you? In a few moments' time, we're going to take like the evening offering, but like, would you just outline some of the things that you need us to play a part in? Because we know like there are some challenges around putting it on.
Absolutely. So three things. Firstly, most importantly of all, guys, get your young people along to Limitless Festival in the summer. We're already at about 3,000 even now, so that's really exciting to see all of those churches and young people coming. But if you've got a youth group, or if you're a parent of teenagers, like, do what you can to get them into that space this summer. Secondly, in order to make Limitless Festival happen, it's not just a big financial challenge, but it needs an almighty team. We need about 450 people on team to be able to make that happen. And that could be you guys. You could be village hosts, where you have kind of pastoral and practical responsibility for a group of young people. You could work in the space like Neville did last year, where you chat and you pray with young people. You can work in cafes. You can serve on catering teams. You can encourage people in your churches to do that. We're only at around 200 teams so far, so we've really got a little bit of a mountain to climb there. And then finally, of course, and hence why we're taking our offering this evening, it is financially a massive challenge. Although, like, Boyd reminded me this morning not to have a scarcity mindset. So now I'm not worried anymore, Boyd. But here's what I will say about it. It's this. Like, we don't ever want Limitless Festival to be the privilege of the middle classes. And so we do everything we can to keep those ticket prices as low as we possibly can, but to make it as accessible for young people from across the spectrum as we can. That means, though, as a result, that we need to do a whole bunch of additional fundraising. So right now, that looks like we need to raise a minimum of an additional £60,000 a year in order to sustain Limitless Festival and keep this space alive for young people. So that's the financial challenge. So that's why we want to invite you to give this evening.
Thank you, and thanks, guys, for just helping us to understand Limitless Festival in a significant way. In a few moments' time, our service hosts are going to help us to understand how we can go about giving and investing financially in this wonderful ministry. But I'm going to ask you just to turn your attention to the screen. You're going to see a video, and then we'll find out how to give. Thanks, guys. Thank you.